Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Learn From Us podcast. Thanks for joining us today. As always, my name is Seth. I always say that, as always. Just like the way it flows. As always, my name is Seth Kirchanen. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Gabrail. How are you, Paul? I love you.
I'm wonderful, and I love you too.
A year and a half ago, I have Beth's cousins live down south in, let's call it one of those states down there, the South. We visit them often. Not often enough. Great people. He had a bigwig job making good money, maybe $300K a year or something.
Oh, wow.
He traveled a lot, so he was missing his 5 or 6 kids.
5 or 6?
They have 5 kids.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nut house down there. They know it. They're great. They got into flipping houses. And this is before I met you, or at least...
No, not a year and a half ago then.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Like, right as I was meeting you.
Re-meeting, by the way, because we went to high school together.
We did. Which I do remember.
Here we go.
Not you so much. If you've joined us on our last podcast, I have I don't remember a lot of things in this world. It's just a tough thing. Like, I don't remember a lot of things. I need help from my friends to remember things that happened, like Paul in high school. Like, I remember, you hung with, who you hung with. And,
I know.
Yeah, we don't have to get into it, but I tell people, I reconnected with a high school buddy. He was kind of like a dorky chess player in high school, and now he's kind of a dorky chess player. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But anyway, so this guy wanted to shift out of this job, basically Beth's cousin, and they started flipping houses. And I was intrigued. And they're like, oh, we're doing 9, 10 at a time.
At a time?
And I want to get your thoughts on this. They said, when you get off the highway and there's a telephone pole right there and there's a sign that says bright yellow, we buy houses.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever put it into thought as, what is that? And so she vaguely gave me like what they do is with the we buy houses, apparently they had a mentor like you.
Uh-huh.
And they paid 100,000, 200, a lot of money.
Wow, good for them.
For maybe like a personal training partnership where he would hook them up with all the hookups that he kind of knows, and that not only did they pay him an initial amount of money, but that he also got a percentage of each one of these flips for a certain number of years. It sounded like astronomically crazy. I was like, why are they? But they did the we buy houses thing. And she said something like, well, someone will call and say, I need out of my house.
Yep.
Then they go to the house and they say, okay, what do you want for the house? We want $100K for this house. Okay, well, for me to make money on this house, this kitchen needs to be redone. And as you know from Flip or Flop TLC, that costs $25K.
Yeah.
So I'm now down to 75 on this house. And the bathroom upstairs needs to be done. And because you watch all those silly shows, that bathrooms are $12K. So now we're down to 63. And the roof, now we're down. So I'll give you $52,000 for this house. And then sometimes that works.
Yeah.
So what is this formula? What am I explaining it correctly? What the heck's going on? They were very adamant, and they have like this website, and it seems very. Tell me about it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have never called those we buy houses signs. Do they work? There's a famous one, WeBuyUglyHouses.com. I think that's a franchise. I'm not 100% sure or not. But it's basically a numbers game. What they're doing is saying, hey, we don't care what condition your house is in. Give us a call. We're going to make you an offer. Which, by the way, I'm very much a big believer in that. I mean, they're going to sit there and tell you, we're going to make you an offer. And in the last podcast, we talked about in this market, how do you get an advantage to get good deals? You have to be able to close very quickly. That's what these guys are doing. The hard part is the average consumer usually thinks, 9.5 out of 10 consumers think their house is worth more than it's actually worth. That's just a given in life. I mean, Everyone thinks that, oh, my kitchen's fine. Well, we're not trying to do fine, because if we're just fine, you might as well put the house for sale right now and just go sell it. We're trying to make money and build the value. How do we do that? By changing something dramatically in the house. That's all they're doing. Is it wonderful? I think it's absolutely brilliant from both sides, because if you're selling to them, you're going to get a check pretty freaking quick from what I understand. I don't know exactly the terms of it, but they're going to get a check in the next couple weeks, get a closing and be done, or 30 days.
Yeah.
When if you called a realtor, how long did it take you to go from calling the realtor to listing your house for sale?
Yeah, I mean,
30, 45 days?
longer than that, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you also do some work on, you wanted to like paint some things and all that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That's where I look at it going, that's where people don't see the value of. In the time it takes you to even list the house, your house is sold and you get a check. Is it a lot lower? Sure, but guess what? Somebody else buying that house is probably going to want to upgrade it anyhow, so they're going to factor that in there anyhow. So let's say your hypothetical example, 52, maybe they get 65 in the market, maybe, and then they got to pay commissions, closing, all these other things that have to happen, as opposed to you're out of the house like that. And that's hard for people to understand why that's valuable. Do you know what I mean?
I think people have a hard time also understanding that the next person that buys this house has to make money on it.
Yeah.
There's
always an argument on how much money is enough money.
Yeah, it's funny is I used to work at like a vintage toy shop.
Yeah.
It's still open down there in Canal
Is it
Fulton.
really?
It's called Toys Time Forgot. And they specialize in like antique toys, like a freaking Popeye toy from like the 60s. And a baby boomer will walk in and see a toy they haven't seen in 50 years, and like that's kind of their market.
They've got to sell a lot on eBay too, I imagine.
They do, yeah, and they have moved into that. But the funny part when I was growing up is someone would walk in with a toy, like or an expensive one, and they'd say, "I'm just here to see, like, I kind of want to sell this. I'm here to see what it's worth."
Yeah.
And the owner would say, "Well, it's worth $600." Oh my God, great! I'll take $600 for it. And he's like, "I'll offer you $225."
Yeah.
And they're like,
You just said it was worth 600.
"That's
What does
right."
it sound like? What show? Pawn Stars.
Oh,
I love Pawn Stars because it's
You
exactly.
do?
Oh, love that show. You don't like that show?
I was in the parking lot like a week ago. I got a tattoo.
Oh, you were there?
Well, I was just there. I didn't actually go in.
You didn't
but-
go in? Was it
I don't
busy?
know why. I got a
you should've
tattoo
gone
next
in.
door, but anyway, you love Pawn Stars.
Love it.
Oh my
Because it's the real estate world, but for random things. And people will come in. I remember there was one episode. This lady comes in with a brooch. And he looks at the brooch and goes, "How much do you want for this?" She's like, $1,000. He's like, "Okay, well, if I pay you $1,000 for it, you're going to sue me later because it's worth about 20." She goes, "Oh, well, I want 20 then." He goes, "How about 12?" She goes, "How about 15?" He just goes, "I just told you that the item you were trying to sell me for $1,000 is worth 20, and I offered you 12, and you're arguing with me about 15. She's like, "Well, now that I know it's worth more," I loved it because it's exactly the way. Listen, I get it, but it's the world of, listen, I got to make a buck on this. I got to put it on the shelf.
Well,
How
see,
long
I
is it
guess
gonna
that
sit?
people don't. I mean, even I was like, wait a minute. Well, why would if I thought my house was worth 100? Why would I take 50?
There's a million reasons why. Did you move out of the area? Is it a family member who died who left you the house and you just don't want to deal with it? And there's a myriad of reasons. In a good market, it's harder for those reasons to really come to the surface because everybody's selling houses very quickly, right? But at the same token, there's so many reasons why people would take a hit. Understanding the reason is important because you want to understand if it's a legitimate reason where they're hiding something or something like that. But the house Ramage was wasn't it somebody estate, Tim?
It was his grandparents' house.
Yes, and they passed away, and he's just like, "I don't need this house anymore. It's a train wreck. Just give me 14." And we literally went through it and said, "We can't even give you 14. We got to give you 8." And he goes, "Okay, I'll take 8." You know what I mean? It's those things, but that's why I like Pawn Stars, and that's why I like Shark Tank so much, and all these shows that somebody will sit there and say, "Here's my thing." All right, well, I got to make money off this thing. Well, how about no, I've got to make money off this thing. I can't give you $600 if it's going to sell for $600. I've got overhead costs. I've got sales costs. I got to pay commission to the person, all these
A
things.
lot of people get really upset.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they'd say, "Well, I can get this much on eBay," and he'd just be like, "Well, then go get it on eBay."
And that's what I always tell people. Well, I can go put it on the market and get 100. Well, then put it on the market and get 100,000. I don't blame you. I would do the same thing. But
Yeah.
you're here talking to me because you want something done fast. What's the thing? Quality, price, and speed. Pick two of them, right? I guess in the real estate world, it's hard when you're selling a property. I guess it's price or speed. Pick which one you want because you can't have both. You can't have the highest price fast. And if you do get the highest price very fast, to me that'd be an indication of the market's too hot. But this is all part of business. You got to have margin in there. And Pawn Stars is a great example of that. I mean, basically your toy store is a Pawn Stars kind of thing, right? That's what it is.
You mentioned quality and speed, and I think of my sex life right off the bat. It's like they're wanting to they're wanting to change.
Honey, which one do you want tonight? Quality or speed?
Forget the price, you know.
The price is the same.
Yeah, so that's a joke.
Oh, is it?
Maybe not. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just intrigued by that. I mean, they're very confident about it. I actually should probably check in with them and see how it's all going. They were just very gung-ho about it. And like I said before, we had talked about all this real estate stuff. I couldn't understand that. I couldn't understand there were so many people that like, okay, my house is worth 100, and then you walk in and tell them everything's wrong with it, and then try and buy it from them at half the price. And I didn't see how that was.
What I want to know though, what I want to learn is if they're able to do 9 or 10 at a time in this market, what kind of margin do they have?
And maybe it was like maybe 2-3 years ago.
It was still a good market. 2-3 years ago, it was a really
probably
hot
even
market.
better, right?
It was probably close to the time when it was starting to go. Like now it's starting to soften. But the issue I have is I've heard people tell me like, oh, I'm doing tons of flips. And then you find out their margin, like, yeah, we're killing it. And they're making 15%. You know, it's just like, that's not killing it in flip world. In the flip world, if you're selling a property and after all your fees, you're netting 15%, that to me is way too thin of a margin. Way too thin. Like to me, that's bubble type 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago market. And I think people will sit there and think that's incredible, but I don't think they understand the downside risk to it. What's the downside risk? The downside risk is if the market shifts 10%, you lost all your equity. Like, well, no, I had 15% margin. Yeah, but 10% wipes all that away because you have closing costs. You have this. All that's gone. If you're carrying interest because you borrowed the money from somebody, it sits in the market longer. Not only did the price fall, it sits in the market longer. You're now in the negative, just like that.
You know, speaking of the market, I don't know if you've noticed this. It seems like a lot of people are ready for the market to turn.
I know, it sucks. It bothers me.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to bring up the idea that you always say when everyone's talking about it.
I know. It's a valid observation. It's very impressive.
I've never heard, maybe I just haven't been in tune with the world, but so many people, like I'm in photographer groups, friends who have no real estate at all, and they're like, boy, you know, I'm waiting for this market to fall and I'm going to pounce. And I'm just like, number one, are you? Number two, like, do you have saved up capital? As we've discussed, that like I actually have, like you, I think a lot of cash ready.
Yeah.
To invest when, but yeah, it seems like
know.
people are already jumping on the bandwagon before it even exists.
It sucks. I remember 7 years ago, I kept hearing the double dip's going to happen. And I thought the double dip was going to happen until then I started hearing everybody go, the double dip's going to happen. I'm like, damn it. And sure enough, the double dip never happened. You know what the double dip is?
Not
we had
at
the
all.
recession, then we had a rebound, and everybody's like, oh, we're going to have another dip back into a recession. Everybody comes with a double dip, and we're going to have the double dip. It never happened. Mm-hmm. And I really worry about that today. Everyone's talking about all these things. Now, if we weren't in the real estate market, I think they're talking about economy mostly, because the economy has been going strong for 10 years now and hasn't even faltered like once, which is kind of a weird thing. But in terms of real estate and stocks, I'm still seeing the real estate deals out there and going, how the F do they justify these prices?
Yeah.
I don't get it. And that's where I look at it going, people still sit there and, like I told you, I have people who still sit there and say, well, Paul, you're obviously not looking at the right deals. And that, to beyond belief, drives me nuts. I'm like, I look at tons of deals and they're all garbage. So I look at that going, okay, then maybe it's just the economy people are talking, because to have 10 years out of recession, it's not a very common thing. And we've gone 10 strong years of growth, but we'll get into that in another conversation.
Sure.
But everybody's talking about it. You sit there and go like, well, if everybody's talking about it, is it really going to happen? I don't know. I mean, you're right. I think it's I think it's very impressive that you even make that observation going, everything I'm talking about says this. And I'm like, okay. I mean, the economy is what it is. Whatever ends up happening. But I think with asset prices, those are still very lofty. And I hear people like now, like yesterday, 2 days ago, I got a call from a mortgage broker for big commercial properties. Paul, what are you doing now? I'm like, we're not doing anything. We're waiting. He's like, oh, I keep hearing that too. I'm like, oh, fudge. I'm like, first off, who are you hearing that from? Because everybody I talk to is like, oh, you got to be in the deals. You got to be in the... I think a lot of it is, though, people just doing deals to do deals, realizing they're overpriced, but just saying we have to do the deals because we have to keep money flowing. Because a lot of people out there are like that. Like, listen, maybe I'll overpay today, but I did good deals in the past, and I'll do better deals in the future and over time, but I still have to keep doing deals. Because a lot of people are paid to do deals, so they have to find deals to do. And any justification they have to do them, they're going to do them. That's that.
So how often, you say you look at deals, you and your team, I mean, how many deals?
Daily. Andrew gets hundreds a week, probably.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
So talk about your team. I know you're in love with your team.
I love my team.
We love having Andrew on, and I'm learning. I went to school with Andrew as well 15 years ago. Or
15 years ago.
20 now.
Yeah, 20 years ago we graduated. June of 99.
The reunion's coming up.
It is.
You and I will be rubbing elbows. And
we'll actually be standing next to each other in the picture and actually know who we are.
Yeah, for our 15th, we look back, and Paul and I were right next to each other, and I didn't give a shit about who you were.
I didn't even remember you being there, and you didn't remember me being there. That was the funny part.
I was really glad I'm really glad we go to those.
Oh, they're fun, aren't they?
Yeah, I had friends who didn't want to go.
Yeah.
People like to avoid that, or they want to like show off their spouse, and I was like, well, I guess it must be. I think you and I both have a nice confidence in ourselves.
I think so.
You don't tend to worry what people think about you.
I used to a lot though.
Yeah, that's right. Unless, of course, like you're very you don't want to be over salesy with the learn from us.
Yes.
You don't want to be the these.
Hey, I got the secrets. What do you want to learn?
Yeah, you don't have.
No.
Yeah,
By the way, everybody cares about what people think of them, and I still
Yeah.
do care. Look at the statement I made a few minutes ago when people were telling me, like, oh, you're not looking at the right deals, and I want to take a chair and throw it at them. If I really didn't care what they thought, I
Yeah.
wouldn't care about that. But with time and success, you become more confident just saying, but it's not a fake confidence. Not like I'm sitting there going like, well, look at me. It's
Oh, yeah,
more of
no.
I know
Yeah.
you weren't saying that. I'm just sitting there saying, like,
I think there's an inner confidence and peacefulness of saying, you know what, I am who I am. I wear these shirts. I have these tattoos and this hair.
Yeah.
And that doesn't couple well with a bad memory, because I meet people, it's like, oh my God, I met you. And I'm like, who are these people? My wife helps me on that. So everyone out there, if I've ever met you, I'm sorry, I don't remember. But tell me, I was bringing up your team because you talk about the idea of the importance of your team and the importance of trusting a team. And I think I'm just trying to start to learn this. Because I describe you to people as like, he has 15 businesses and $100 million real estate portfolio.
well,
and,
business and real estate and everything portfolio.
Yeah, and he plays chess and reads books.
And play guitar now.
That's right. And poker.
And poker.
And tennis.
And tennis. And basketball.
And you don't, that's right, and basketball, which we'll be playing this evening. And you don't sound like the typical person that tells you that you have to work 20 hours a day and you have to get no sleep.
Because it's asinine.
So tell me about it.
So we were leaving the Ramage house. And the Ramage house was the 3-episode series we did on that rental in Maple that we just rented. And you said I don't remember what you said exactly, but I said something like, oh, I'll never see this house ever again. And you looked at me, you're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'll never see this house ever again. He's like, you're going to own this house. You're never going to see it again. Why? Because I have the people that I trust wholeheartedly. And there's probably somebody out there right now watching or listening and saying, well, you can't trust everybody wholeheartedly. Then I'm going to do the thing that people say about me. Then you don't have the right people around you. If you don't have people around you that you trust. Now, by the way, I'm not sitting there saying the old Reagan saying of trust but verify. Every single person that works for me, there's reporting, there's checks and balances in the business to make sure what they're reporting to me is accurate. Are the deposits that are actually coming to the account consistent with this? Are we ordering the products and they're actually being put in the houses? There's things like that. I trust my quote-unquote team, and I hate that cliche because I've seen a lot of people in the past go, oh, the first thing I'm going to do is put my team together. You will put your team together over time. It will not happen day one. Mm-hmm. The people I started with are not the people I do it. Like Andrew wasn't there day one when I first started. He got added later.
Yeah.
The people I started with back then, I wouldn't even talk to now about doing any deals with me.
Are you?
Oh, the worst people ever. My lawyer, my manager, all these people, I'm like, oh my God, it was the worst decision ever. The people I started with in real estate, they're dead. If they called me today and said, hey, Paul, I'd be like, don't call me ever again. I fired all of them because they were terrible because I learned what I really was conducive to my personality, right? And I learned what I was really expecting. You've been added to that team because of this stuff and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like I'm going, you were added 13 years later. The team is so important because if you don't have this team that you can trust and rely on, how do you grow? If you don't want to grow, totally different. I'm okay with that. But I've had people I know who are the CEOs of their company. They have 300 employees, and we're playing a tennis match, and they're taking phone calls in the middle of a tennis match. And I said, what are you doing? Oh, Paul, you can never let anybody do anything. I remember the person saying to me something to the effect of, it never stops. You got to always be, it's always something. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this guy has 300 employees. He's going to want to sell his company someday. And I would look at him and say, if you're that important to your company, you don't have a business.
You love this saying.
Because I look at it going, a business to me is something, I always said this, my goal in life was to be able to walk away from my business for a month if I want to do it, and everything keeps going. Tim, if I was in the office, would it really matter?
Matters to me.
Okay, apart from the fact that we get along well and we have a good rapport and we feed off each other, would you need me to do your
Does
job?
the office change when he goes to Mexico?
I don't think it does. The only thing I hear is it's quieter. That's what I hear from everybody. Like, it's quieter around here. That's it. So I look at that going, I'm very proud of the fact that we have this team where, apartment building we're buying. Yesterday we were at lunch, and somebody said, like, hey, is the deal going through? I'm like, well, we had the inspection. Like, no, we had this inspection. I go, what inspection? Like, well, we had inspection Friday. I'm like, we had inspection Friday. I had no clue. We had inspection Friday. And guess what? I don't care. And I was so proud of the fact that I had no idea.
How long did it take you to develop this team, develop this trust in people, let go a bit as a CEO? Is that what
Yeah, I know. It's a title, whatever.
What is your title?
I don't know. I guess you'd call it CEO. When I first brought Andrew on and realized he had this mentality, I was like, okay, well, at least I have Andrew, and that's probably going to be it for the rest of our lives. And then we found Mary. And then we found other people, and it started to grow. I stopped being a micromanager about 6 or 7 years ago. When I hired Mary is when I stopped being a micromanager. I said, Mary, you're going to do whatever you need to do. Just do it, and that's that. Because I was a micromanager before in the sense of I needed to have my hand in everything. And now the joke is, and it's no exaggeration, somebody will come to my office and say something, and I'll literally look at them and say, why are you asking me that question? Why are you even telling me this? I pay you to go do that. If you're not confident in doing it, let's talk about that. But you need to be confident to sit there and say, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do the right thing. Paul's going to evaluate this every so often. Now, somebody might make the argument of, well, do you really know your business? I would make the argument that I get Now, granted, to keep in mind, I get collection and leasing numbers every single day for all of our properties because I like knowing those things. So if you said to me today, Paul, what's your collections for the 5th of the month in Columbus? I would tell you to the nearest 0.25%. 0.1%, because I know the number, because I got the email and the text last night. But to sit there and say, Paul, how many work orders are 30 days late, 45 days, 10 days late, whatever the number is, I would have no clue. How many bills do you guys have how many accounts payables versus I have no clue. But at the same point, if I want to know, I'm one click away from knowing. And to me, that it's allowed me to then grow my business to 15 businesses, and now it's become our business. Like, literally over the last year, it's changed from this is my business to this is our business. And that to me that's something that someday, if I wanted to sell it, I would go to somebody and say, this is what you're buying. You're buying, here are the keys, have fun, right? But if you're the most important, I remember people bragging, I'm the most important person in my business. That is not a business. All you have is would you call it a hobby? Because it makes money, so it's not really a hobby. It's you're a sole proprietor. And at the end of the day, if you died, what happens? If you're so important to your business, why would I ever want to buy that?
You've said this to me. If you want to make sure that all these people upstairs are okay if you ended up dying.
Yep. And now I'm at that point.
In a freak tennis accident.
Tennis ball in the face, and all of a sudden I die. No, and it's a very big thing for me because I'm very proud of the people I have around me, and I'm very proud of the fact that I'm one of those guys who can brag about, if I want to sleep until 8 o'clock tomorrow, I do it. If I want to go on a trip, I do it. If I want to do all these things, and that to me is a very proud thing because of the people around us. And they have a lot of latitude, and that's the big thing for me. Like, how many people say, oh, I don't like my boss always being over my... First off, if you don't like accountability, you got to ask yourself, why don't you like accountability? Because you're probably trying to avoid accountability.
I mean, you are definitely a cutthroat with accountability.
Oh,
you don't put up with excuses.
Because I give the leeway. That's my thing. If I give you the leeway... The thing is, then if you don't hit that, I've got to call you out on that one. Because I don't want to be the guy who's like, every 2 seconds, like, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? But at the same point, at the end of the month, if I look at it and going, well, why don't we get this done? Well, because don't care. It doesn't matter to me. If I gave you the flexibility and your check cleared, you owe me this. I don't care what the reason is. If there's an issue, figure it out.
Yeah, we had some salty conversations about that.
But you know what? It has been salty, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but if you want to achieve the goals you want to achieve,
sure, you
have to understand why that doesn't matter, why the excuses don't matter. And when I say excuses, I was telling somebody last night, the second I allow one excuse, I have to allow all of them. That's why I don't allow any excuse. That's it.
Well, in my business, I was gonna, I think Paul is gonna be one of our, at least in my mind, he should be one of our sort of business consultants to keep it going, keep the accountability going, the check-ins, and just think of the ideas that I probably can't even come up with, And it seems like, you have ideas about business that I would never even contemplate.
But why is that?
Well, you've been in the game a lot longer than me.
Exactly. So to me, it's not a credit to me, but it's a credit to me, but it's not a credit to me. I don't want it to be I'm better at business than Seth. It's just I'm more exposed to business than Seth. And over time, with me consulting, you will need me less and less and less and less, theoretically, because you're going to learn so much more. Now, the whole goal is I learn so much more along the way that I can now help take you from $1 million business to a $10 million business because I've built 5 businesses that went to $10 million. You know what I mean? Those are the things that over time will hopefully happen.
Just to hear you say $10 million business, it's just not normal in my life.
Yeah. I probably $1 million business wasn't normal in your life. I mean, that's the thing.
100,000.
Yeah, 100,000. That was the goal, right?
Again, folks, I'm in the photography community. My wife and I have been photographers for the past going on 8 years now. And yeah, like there are multiple outlets, the big money makers, the big promoters in the photography world. They urge new photographers that you can be a 6-figure photographer, and which is a pipe dream for most. My wife looked up the average photographer makes $30,000. It's a very undervalued sort of profession, right? Everyone wants I always love the professions where everyone's, don't you love the Facebook post? I need great at a reasonable price, right?
But at the same token, I think people are coming a lot of that from I like the one thing I hear about from contractors so much is, well, if you want it done right, well, just because you charge me more doesn't mean you're going to do it right. I've been charged a lot before and had it done wrong. And I've been charged a little before and had it done right. Now, the downside of paying a little to have it done right is it's usually not sustainable. So that person will realize, wait, I'm pretty good at this. I'm going to be able to charge more money. So it's a healthy balance of price and quality.
Yeah, so like I said, when you mention $1 million to $10 million businesses, it's just like, if you say so, if you want it. Yeah, if you want it, right? If you're willing to do the work and do sacrifice. So that's a struggle too internally,
Of course.
Yeah, so it all goes back to what do we want, It's not, for you, it's at this point, it's not about money anymore. We talk about that all the time. And of course, money's bad, right?
Money is evil.
Money's bad. If you make a lot of it, you're evil. But everyone wants to. So, well, I'm just going everywhere. Well, okay, listen. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I just want to get Paul's thoughts on a couple of those topics today. I'm going to check in about this We Buy Houses type thing, and it just seemed intriguing. And so
it's very intriguing.
I'd love to check in with maybe their 2-year status about where they're at and what's going on. And, guys, follow us on all the podcast outlets. If this is the first time you've ever heard of us, I apologize for my cold. But go back. All the old podcasts are hilarious. People love when I bust you up, Paul. I need to do more of that. I don't want to be the bully, but you are freaking hilarious. I know you're always self-confident about like your lispy type thing. Are you still that way?
Self-confident or self-conscious?
Conscious.
I do have a lisp, though, don't I?
It's a little.
It's a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's cute.
Oh, thanks.
Sometimes I make fun of it a little bit.
Thanks very much.
There's multiple ways to skin a cat. You always say that. We gotta look up where that phrase came from. So now I'm saying it. People say
came from my friend Michael Moskal, who always said it to me. And the first time he said it to me, I was just like, "You're wrong. There's only one way to skin a cat." And I literally thought that. And now I'm like, "Oh no, he's right."
I always say it. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. So,
Hank, Dad, there are multiple ways to skin a cat.
That's my son. So, all right, everyone. Thanks so much for following. We love the comments. You guys are awesome. This community of podcast listeners is growing. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks, Paul, for all the insight.
Thank you, sir.
Talk to you soon, my friend.
Keep it real.
All right.